Something interesting that I noticed, yeah, and I want to talk about this more at another time, but it's to do with the power of communication and organisation, right? Some of you out there might be old enough to remember the 2011 riots, right, in London. I can't remember why they happened. I think it was about Mark Duggan, and then it spiraled into all kinds of degenerate things, right? But that aside, 2011 was a very turbulent time, not in just England, but in the whole world, right? Things were changing politically and socially, therefore, some say for the worse, some say for the better, right? That aside, if you're watching this way in the future, just understand that we lived through it, right? So our perspective is different than yours on it, right? Around 2011, one of the most potent things, yeah, although social media was kicking, but it wasn't where it is now, right? We still had the first iterations of iPhone becoming what it is, right? So we had iPhone 3, 4, and some people had 5 maybe. I don't remember if it was 5 yet, but it was definitely a 4, and Blackberries were still a thing, right? Now, Blackberries was essentially how London riots, and I think even Birmingham, some places up north, or some places Liverpool, all of those places, were able to, like, covertly or underground organise themselves to go out in these groups and either cause these problems or loot these places, right? All of this happened through Blackberry communications, right? This was pins, right? You get someone's pin and you can message them directly through Blackberry's network, right? That tool for communication was, I want to try and be careful about how I say this, right? It was such a powerful tool that it shook up the government, right? The government wasn't aware that the potential for people to organise and actually come out in droves, I'm talking young people and fairly older people, was significantly powerful, right? And it was harder to monitor because it wasn't all done out in the open on social media, right? You couldn't just go to someone's wall. You could, yeah, like on some idiot's Facebook and read, yeah, we're here at this time, whatever, right? But on Blackberry it was different, right? If you weren't in a group, if you didn't have a pin, you weren't in the know, right? So that whole Blackberry thing is what enabled people to organise, right, in the street and do all of that looting and all that. And me personally, I wasn't involved in any of that, right? I didn't even visit London at that time in my life, right? I'm not just saying that to like distance myself from criminality. Like, I'm literally being honest, right? I was in Alton Towers when the London riots were happening, right? So for me, I was distant from it, but I was distant enough to have a perspective on the whole thing, right? And how it was going to go down and what was happening, right? So this is years later, I'm giving you this perspective, right? So after all of that shit happened, right, and the riots went on for however long they went on, right, a lot of the shit that happened was so powerful because of Blackberry communication, right? And later down the line, the government realised this, right? So they went into a state of breaking down the Blackberry Messenger thing, so it could be like unencrypted or something like that. They did, so they could go in and look at it, right? Police have access to these things, yeah. But that form of peer-to-peer communication died after that period of time, right? And everybody was slowly moved from, it was a social engineering tool to move everybody from Blackberry Messenger to iPhones and WhatsApp, right? Now WhatsApp was unencrypted and belonged, this before Facebook bought them, but they were still very like early in the hackable market of technological communications, right? So once that social sweep happened and people started moving from Blackberries to Androids and iPhones, right, it was much easier to control people, right? And that's where you get to today, where social media is so prominent and everybody is separate, but they can't really organize anything. They don't really speak to each other anymore, right? Because there's no need to, when you can just post pictures and you can post videos and be content creators and BBL girls and celebrities, right, off of social media, there's no real reason to talk to anybody anymore, right? So that communication link between people is gone, right? If you understand that now, you understand all of the other social things that have happened since then, right? The politics change, the policy changes of social media itself, Facebook and Twitter and all of that. You can see every time an event has happened in the world, it's been easier for the government and like information agencies to lock that shit down quickly, right? And get people under control and arrest the people that are inciting violence or inciting insurrection or whatever, right? Whatever it is, right? It's so much easier to control people now than it was then, right? So that was just the thing that I've been thinking about, right? The power of actually communicating with people and having communities online, but it was like its own network, right? That's what Blackberry messaging was, right? Its own network. And that factor of it being peer-to-peer is what made it so dangerous, right? People actually had to talk to each other. There wasn't no one person's page you could go to and see the faces, the names of all these people. No, you had to be in there and actually investigating to find out who's who and what's what, right? So you got to understand that now in the future, this kind of history won't be really talked about. But the fact of the matter is this: most people don't like to be controlled, right? Most people don't like to be monitored. Most people don't like to be spied on and manipulated, right? But we concede to it because it's easier. It's get along to go along, right? Go along to get along, right? So just understand that the new social media, the way things run, people no longer have to communicate, right? So if people don't have to communicate, they can't organize, right? So it doesn't mean that I'm inciting anything that I would want people to write or anything like that, because I don't even care about that. I'm just pointing out the fact that the community and the connectivity of people, interconnectivity, yeah, and conversation aspect of what that social engineering from moving away from Blackberry to Androids and iPhones has done, right? And look at the outcome of our society now, right? Camera phones, social media, you name it, facial recognition, finger scanning, retinal scans, all of it, you name it, right? Biometrics, right? It was much harder to do in 2011, right? And the prior years to that, right? So that was one of the main reasons why it was socially engineered to steer everyone away from these peer-to-peer networks into an open source format, right? Where you're easy to access, all your information is out there, right? Your biometrics, your personal thoughts, your face, your everything was there, right? Everything is there now, right? So for the people that organized whatever they organized in those Blackberry days, it will be much harder for them to do things like that now, right? And that is essentially how you squash any kind of rebellion or any kind of social movement, right? You can infiltrate it now, you can squash it quick. You see everyone is involved, all the faces, names, places, right? So anybody that's online talking revolution through social media ain't got a fucking clue of what they're doing, right? They don't know shit because they're being watched just like probably me and you are being watched, right? But the difference is we ain't doing nothing wrong, so we're like, alright, fine, watch us, right? Cool, you're just seeing us, right? We couldn't stop you anyway. Like we saw what that is it Snowden or one of them, we saw what the shit they were doing, right, with people's phone cameras and laptops and shit. They've always been looking if they wanted, right? But the difference is you're all like all of these nodes, right, are cameras, microphones, phones, laptops, smart TVs, and you name it that's connected to the internet, are all accessible, right, to the right people and the right technology. So yes, you're being listened to and watched, right, but it's not constant, right, because they would have to hire someone to watch you constantly. So instead, all of these things are nodes that link back to one place, right, one hardware, one software operating system that allows them to access you at any time they want it, right? So it would be easier to just make a watch list of everybody that people of interest, archive all of their camera footage, their microphone footage, their internet usage, and then should they decide to investigate those people, they just access the archive, right? Or they access the live feed of whatever's happening. Like these vans monitored, right? The CEOs, the managers can just look at you and listen to you at any time they want to, right? But you sign up for it, unfortunately, right? Because you gotta work. And just like the internet and the iPhones and all of that, you sign up to it because you've got to have access to technology, right? Or else you get left behind. So yes, just be aware you're always being watched and listened to. But if you're not really doing anything wrong, it's not a big deal. But of course, there's a whole set of human rights activists that would disagree with that, right? That you should have that freedom of not being watched and surveilled by your government or your, intelligence agency, what have you. But that was just a thing that you need to understand, right? The movement of technology shifts how society interacts with the world, right? So if we can get everybody off of this peer-to-peer, like we can get everybody from MSN to Facebook, and we get everybody from Blackberry to iPhone and WhatsApp, we get more control, right? We get more access to the individual. So you have to understand that that's the way things work. Now, I'm not somebody that can predict what the next level of technology will be or the next social manipulation and change will be, but I've got a good idea of what it is, right? So just watch out for that and recognize these patterns, right? And how they affect you or how they don't affect you. But you must be aware, because knowing is half the battle, okay?